Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So we are continuing on with the training we were doing in the last episode, and that is our competition simulations. So if you didn't watch the last episode, we're doing a bunch of comp simulations right before the Pan Am Championships, just to really get our comp tactics nice and refreshed and take all of the training that we've been doing and turning it into competition performance. I find a little short burst of 3 or 4 comp simulations right before an important event can really help me feel in the groove and ready to perform on comp day. Whereas if I don't do any, and then I just go right smack into a competition, I can feel a bit of the rust. So this comp simulation that we're doing here at Bloc 2 is actually kind of a special one. So this is an event that's kind of being hosted by Bloc. So we have this whole comp wall at Bloc 2, and the idea is that it gets set about once a month or once every 3 weeks. And the rough idea that so far is holding true is that the team wants to do a comp simulation with every set of the comp wall, which is absolutely mega and is such a cool idea and so good for the athletes in the area. So every time this comp wall gets fully reset, they're gonna host a comp simulation. And the way it works is that there are 5 circuits on the Bloc comp wall from R1 to R5, and there are 3 boulders per circuit. So you can basically sign up for any circuit and as many circuits as you want. And let's say the R1 circuit starts at 9 a.m. You go and you sign your name on the running order, and you go and it's your time. And then, R2 starts at 10 a.m., R3 circuit starts at 11 a.m., etc. So I only wanted to do one comp simulation on this day because I wanted to do another one tomorrow. So what I decided to do was I'm going to do the R5 circuit for this Bloc simulation, which means I just have a 3 boulder round to do. And then what I'll do is on the next day on my own, I'll do the R4 circuit. So this is the first boulder we're getting on of the R5 circuit. You can see it is quite the crazy boulder. And this one as well, like the idea with the R5 circuits is that they are like World Cup level boulders. So all 3 of these boulders that I'm getting on could 1000% be in a World Cup qualifying round. But actually this one here that we're doing, I'd say is more of a semifinal round style of boulder. Like you wouldn't see this kind of boulder in a qualifying format. They typically don't put the crazy coordination boulders in. But this massive dyno we just did could absolutely be a semifinal move. And after 1,000 tries, I was able to finally stick it, which was actually a really awesome feeling. And there was a bit of a crowd too watching, so it was kind of a fun moment. And we'd been working on that move recently as well at the other Bloc location, and we were able to break that version of it. But the same setter set that last boulder, and he improved upon the move to the point where it was really forced and really, really well done. And that one was by Tony. And now we're going to move into the second boulder. And if you can't tell for yourself just by looking at it close up, this thing is bananas hard. This thing is going to be so hard to do in 5 minutes. And I'd say that this boulder would probably be like the hardest one in the World Cup qualifying round. And when I turned around and saw it, I kind of deduced this very fast. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my best on this boulder. But I was talking about this with somebody recently. I don't know, maybe it was in the last episode. But I also think I was having a conversation in person. But anyway, I was talking about how it's kind of optimal for me to be practicing on the boulders that are going to be the level, like the same level as the ones at Pan Am's, just to really get in the groove and freshen up my tactics that are relevant to climbing the boulders of Pan Am difficulty. And so I say this to say that this boulder, I think, is a little bit cooked for the Pan Am event. I don't think this boulder maybe you'd see it in semifinals, and it would be the hardest boulder in semifinals, but I don't think we're going to be seeing a boulder this hard at the Pan Ams. So I'm kind of trying this boulder thinking, all right, I'm going to try my best, but maybe I won't judge my performance too harshly, because even putting a couple tries on this boulder, I could just tell it was extremely difficult. And this would be an amazing boulder to do some simulations on while we're preparing for the World Cup circuit next year. And yeah, I'm doing my best here. The most obviously difficult thing about this boulder is this right-hand start hold is so bad. You can see that every attempt I'm putting on this, my right hand is sort of just not staying and I'm getting ejected out of there. And the other hard part about this boulder as well is it's actually very complex. There's a lot of different little micro betas you can try, and this is actually a reason why this boulder is absolutely phenomenal and is really well set, especially for a competition boulder. Like, there's so many different places I can put my toe hook and my right heel hook where I can grab the holds. Do I use the intermediate hold to bump to the better one or not, etc.? And these are things setters will make you have to decide in 5 minutes, which is just so mean. And yeah, this boulder as well, like this first move. Afterwards, the setters gave us all the info, and I guess that this one, really, it was important to put your left toe hook all the way to the right of the start hold. And that helped you get tension better on this terrible sloper. I don't think I actually ever ended up trying it in this 5 minutes, but afterwards we're going to work on it, and it does definitely help. And yeah, I think it also helps because the toe hook is extremely close for me and is really hard to get tension. So by moving it a little bit lower, it helps just that extra little bit with getting the tension in order to move through that beginning sequence. But yeah, I wasn't too disappointed with my performance on that boulder during this comp simulation, because I could tell that, like I said, this one was maybe a little bit harder than anything I'll be seeing at Pan Ams. And now we're going to move on to the last boulder of the 3, and this one is the slab. And even though I'd say that this boulder is actually probably a World Cup level slab as well, like for sure you could see it in a qualifying round, I think slab is where things can blend a little bit more. So you can have more crossover between like a North American Cup level slab, a Pan American slab, and a World Cup level slab. Like, there's a little bit more blending happening there. So I'm definitely going into the slab thinking I want to do really well on this. I really am bothered when I can't show the little bits of slab gains that I've made in recent times, and then I just can't show them in the 5 minutes on a slab. So I'm always looking for an opportunity to show myself on slab, and I want to get to the point where I can consider it as like a weapon in a competition. And I feel like I'm just on the cusp of that. But anyway, this boulder definitely could be World Cup level and Pan American level as well. So I'm going to try hard on this one. And as I start trying this, the first thing I realize about this boulder is this left foot chip on the little white volume is way worse than it looks. Typically these little flat hold feet are like pretty decent, but this one just feels like it's gonna slip at any moment. So you can see I'm just not able to trust it enough to let go with my right hand and fully balance on this hold so that I can bring my right foot up to the higher purple foot chip. And I think maybe it's on this next attempt, I decide that, you know what, I'm really gonna trust this foothold and then yes, okay, and then we see it does end up slipping on me. So my suspicions were correct. And honestly, sometimes you have to listen to that little voice in the back of your head saying, I can't trust this foot, I can't trust this foot, it's gonna slip. Because sometimes it is gonna slip. And you need to assess like a better position or foot sequence. And it's always hard to thread the line and decide when do you actually just push past that feeling and trust the foot, or when do you find another sequence. And so in this situation, I'm deciding maybe I need to find another sequence. The foot did blow on me, and it just feels a little bit far away in terms of being able to do it. And this new method I find is definitely an option. It felt quite doable. I think I rushed the sequence a little bit there. I tried to come into that little spike crimp that's blocked by the white circle. And this hold, this little spike crimp, is an insult to all climbing holds everywhere. And what I mean by that is it is terrible. It is not a hold. It's just so small and is like so blocked by this white circle that you basically, what it means is you have to find a no hands position to balance and move really slowly into grabbing it. And I can't do that sort of dynamic move that I tried that one attempt. And so at this point in the 5 minutes, I'm realizing, okay, yeah, like this boulder, I really can't figure it out. It is, nothing is feeling close, nothing is making sense. And so I'm thinking, is there any way that I can just finagle my way to the zone hold? Because that's when the tactics come into play and we try to play for points. And then I kind of realized this beta here where we can do a dynamic press into the corner. I think this 100% goes. I only had like 20 seconds to try it. And if this was an actual competition and I found that earlier, I think it would have been epic because I think that could have resulted in a top for sure. But yeah, when we come back to rework this boulder, I'm not even going to bother trying it because I really want to practice this super balancy sequence. I think it's important for me to work on it. And I was a bit bummed with myself that I wasn't able to trust the feet really well and make a good use of them. So this is after the round, by the way, and this is Seb Lazur climbing right now. He's a friend of mine and a member of the Bloc team, and he's like a veteran Canadian climber. He's been around for so long and has been on the national team for so many years, and he's really, really strong. And he's also really, really good at slab, so we're going to be looking at him to demonstrate this boulder and how it's done. And yeah, so we were working on this one quite a bit off camera actually. But some of the footage was a bit shaky and didn't make it in. But anyway, when Seb finally made his way up to that finish move, it's like quite a sketchy move to jump to the crimp on that finish hold, which is also blocked by a white hold. It's hard to see. So Seb just bailed out and he didn't want to jump to the finish crimp. And then, yeah, like I said, I had been working on this one off camera a bit, and after really realizing how to trust this foot, it definitely works a bit better, but I'm not that satisfied with myself that I was able to just balance on the foot after the round, because the hard thing to do in competition climbing is to let go of the pressure and be calm and less tense and trust the foot during the 5 minutes while you're under the pressure. So it doesn't really mean much that I was able to figure it out afterwards, and I was definitely bummed that I couldn't do it in the 5 minutes. And that wasn't really a confidence boost going into Pan Am's with that performance on the slab. Like, it definitely was a hard slab, but I'd like to be doing a bit better on a boulder like that. And one person actually, I think, fell at the finish hold in the 5 minutes. I don't remember their name, but that's like really impressive. And yeah, I think I already mentioned, by the way, that anybody could go sign up for that comp simulation, and then you just show up on the day and like jump in the running order. So yeah, that was cool. And then here we are the next day. So I only did that one session yesterday because the tapering for the competition has begun basically, and I'm not doing double sessions anymore. I'm trying to keep the training load light overall so that I'm not tired leading up to the comp, and we build up a nice amount of freshness. So we just did one session yesterday, and now we're just also going to do one session today. And that session is going to be another comp simulation. Like I said, we're going to hop on the R4 circuit, which is the second hardest one, where we were doing the hardest one yesterday. And I was doing my best to avoid watching anybody climb these boulders yesterday, and like trying to just avert my eyes as much as possible to keep the integrity of the comp simulation. But I did notice like one or two things out of the corner of my eye, such as this right heel hook that I'm doing right now. This boulder that we're hopping on right now is meant to be probably like a big sort of campus paddle across, but I saw Seb out of the corner of my eye do like a right heel hook. And I'm not sure if I would have spotted it on my own, but actually it's not too bad that I saw this little bit of beta out of the corner of my eye, and then I end up trying it now. And this is because this will happen in a competition as well. Like, let's say I'm on boulder 1, and just out of the corner of my eye, I see Seb do this heel hook on the next boulder. This is actually kind of mimicking that situation. And so it's actually not that much of a problem that I saw this bit of micro beta, because it's very, very common that you actually will end up going into every boulder in a competition with a tiny bit of information, because you usually will see glimpses of people in like a position, and you'll see like a split second something while you're on the mat just resting in between attempts. And there's like no helping this either. And sometimes what you see can actually hurt you if someone's trying like bad beta, and it's not always good. And so there's a chance that that heel hook was actually bad beta, and it would have messed me up. But yeah, it's actually like just an interesting element, not a bad or good element. So yeah, I thought that was cool to point out. And then we're moving into this boulder. So this is like the kind of boulder that that can like save me in a competition and can set me apart in the field. So when I turned around and saw this boulder, I said, man, I gotta do this one, because I'm like taking this competition simulation very seriously. And so I'm treating this round as though it were Pan Ams. And I turn around and I see this boulder and I say, this is potentially like my ticket to finals, right? If this were a semifinal round. So I tried really, really hard on that attempt, and I got pumped out of my mind. Like, I shouldn't have even stuck the second last hold because of how pumped I was. And then by the time I had my right hand on the finish, there was no chance I was going to match it. I was mind-bogglingly pumped. And actually, when I fell there, I immediately knew that it would be basically physically impossible for me to stand this boulder in the remainder of the 5 minutes. And so, I rested all the way down to the end, shook out my arms as much as I could, and I was prepared to give this boulder my absolute best try. And maybe there was a world in which I surprised myself, but it's crazy. It's not often that I'll try so hard on attempt 1 that it's literally impossible to send the boulder because of the pump. It's like I just did a route climb. And so yeah, and I actually knew it too on the first attempt. While I was making my way through the last couple moves, I'm thinking to myself, like, this level of pump I feel in my hands is not going to go away. I'm sending this boulder right now, or I'm not sending it. And I wasn't quite able to win the battle. I think there was, now afterwards I realized, after looking at it, the boulder, there was maybe a bit better of a foot sequence that I could do, because trying to keep the feet low to match this finish hold was putting a lot of strain on the right arm, and that's not very awesome when your right arm is as pumped as it can possibly be. So after the round was over, of course I'm allowed to rework the boulders for a little bit, and I rested a long time to get rid of the pump, and I tried to climb through this beginning as fast as I could and as efficiently as I could. And yeah, just with that little extra bit less of pump in my system, it allowed me to do this sequence that I came up with shortly after the 5 minutes, where the idea is we can use a left heel hook to take some of the strain off of our right arm. And even though I had rested so long and I made better work of the beginning, I was still like extremely pumped at the end of that boulder while I just sent it there. And yeah, so that one I was kind of actually really bummed about not doing in the 5 minutes, because like I said, I'm taking these simulations really seriously. And so like immediately during the session, like when that happened, it felt like it would have felt in a comp. Like I fell at the finish hold there and I was like proper upset. Like, dang, I just missed finals there. And I mean, that's how you should be treating your simulations. You really should be caring and really emulating all of the little emotions that you're going to feel on comp day because that's what we're trying to practice right now, is we're trying to practice dealing with them. And so I guess a positive thing to take away from these simulations is that I was definitely taking them seriously, but it actually kind of felt a little bit bad to not do that last boulder. And in the moment, it kind of shot my confidence a little bit. Like, I wasn't able to do much on the slab yesterday on the R5. And then even today, I did the first couple boulders, which were not too bad, but I couldn't do the boulder that I felt like it really mattered, like that super powerful boulder. That should be my jam. But overall, we practiced tactics, got used to feeling pressure, and that in itself is going to be valuable and is going to help me not feel rusty during the Pan Am comp. But anyway, check this out. We are hopping back on this mega hard boulder. And yeah, I didn't get back on this one after the R5 round yesterday because I was pretty tired after that day and I had a bit more energy and I was feeling a bit better today as well. So I felt like I could properly work this one. And yeah, you'll notice I'm doing that thing we were talking about where I move my toe hook a little bit lower, and that helps me get tension for the beginning in order to work my way through these slopers. But man, this boulder does not let up at any point. It is so physically difficult the whole way through. To do this in 5 minutes would be so hard, but there are definitely people that can do it. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, I think this one would probably be like the hardest in the World Cup qualifying round. And yeah, it's also maybe like not so much my style as well. So that further just like affirms that someone can, people can absolutely do this in 5 minutes. But I was happy with the progress on this one. This one was definitely fun to project. I think maybe a little bit near the beginning of a session with a bit more power, I would have a better chance of actually finishing this one. But I just kept getting so fatigued when I was in this compression position, and getting the tension with this right heel hook to go up to the crimp is definitely a really hard move. Probably the hardest move on the boulder. But hopefully this one is still up when we get back from Chile and I can try it again, because it's like absolutely 5-star boulder. But anyway, we can check this out. I'm a little upset with how these couple comp simulations went. Like, the closer you get to an important comp that you've been training for a while, man, like I always have a positive attitude when it comes to training and competing. This is something I've worked on for a long time, really fostering this positive attitude, but you still feel the pressure and you still get nervous no matter what comp it is. I always will get nervous and feel the pressure the closer we creep to comp day. And I was really judging my performance in these few comp simulations, and some of them were good, but for the most part, I was a little bit disappointed. But anyway, we practiced the tactics. Now it's time to just kind of forget about the comp simulations we did, reset, and I'm going to go in with a fresh, motivated state of mind to do my best at Pan Am's. And yeah, after this episode, also stay tuned for the tip of the day. We're going to get to that in a second. But after this episode, I'm going to go climb. I'm going to have a chill session at a gym. I'm going to pick a gym with some greasy holds because I kind of pinked up my tips a little bit over the course of these comp simulations. And yeah, I'm just going to have a chill session. I'm not going to film it. Then we're going to fly to Chile for the event. So the next episode we should be seeing is going to be the event. And physically, I think I'm in pretty good shape and I'm psyched and I'm going to try hard. But anyway, before we end the episode, let's jump into the tip of the day. So for today's tip of the day, we're going to be talking about the Spock grip. Now, there are probably other names for this grip, but I know it as the Spock grip. It's called the Spock because the idea is with the tip of the day, it's when we grab a hold and we separate either our fingers like this or maybe just our pointer finger, which is this scenario here. And, Spock from Star Trek, this is like his thing, right? But yeah, so I know it as a Spock grip. And the reason that this can be effective is on a hold such as the one I'm grabbing, where we have sort of like an angle change. What you can do is you can actually, rather than simply putting all my 4 fingers on the right side, on like the right angle change and pulling down in that direction, I can separate my fingers. In this case, it's just one. And what this does for me actually is it can give me a little bit of compression and more different angles and forces compressing together, which can feel much stronger and much stable than actually just just pinching straight on between your forefingers, because you can almost get a bit of compression between these top four fingers. And yeah, there's lots of great instances of this. Oftentimes when we're grabbing like square holds, this can be really good. So like, let's say you have like a right angle, we can have, our pointer finger and our thumb on the left, and then have these three fingers on the right. And now you get some compression in a situation where you wouldn't. But yeah, like with holds where there are angle changes like this, you can consider separating some of your fingers to add some extra strength and stability. So anyway, that's the end of this episode. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you after we get done competing in Chile.